Welcome to this episode of the Harpreet Singh Show. ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਵਾਉਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਰਨਬੀ ਡੇਅਰ ਲੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਸਾਡੇ ਐਮਐਲਏ ਕੈਥੀ ਕੋਰਿਗਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਦੋਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਪੋਲਿਟਿਕਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਅੱਜ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਪ੍ਰੈਵਲੈਂਟ ਨੇ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। Let's welcome Cathy to the program. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Harpreet.
Pleasure having you.
Thanks.
So a little bit about yourself, since how long you have been associated with politics and especially with NDP. How did you get associated with NDP?
Well, I guess I became associated with the NDP because it seems closest to my values, the principles that the party stands for. I became a school trustee in 1999, was elected to 3 terms in Burnaby, was the chair at the end of that. And then Carol James paid me a visit and she said, I think you'd make a good candidate and we'd like you to run in Burnaby if you would do that.
Right.
And so I decided that I would run. I hadn't really thought about provincial politics. I really enjoyed being on the school board. I'm passionate about public education. But when she came and asked me if I'd do that, I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. So I did.
And when was the first time you fought the elections?
The first provincial election was in the last election in 2009.
Okay.
So that was my first election. It was a very tough election. It was very close. It was a very close riding. So.
Okay. Now, it's been a few years since you have been in provincial politics. So
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about the challenges which you faced, overcoming those obstacles, and what do you think have been your major challenges?
Well, I think getting used to the toughness of provincial politics. It's very demanding physically. You have to love people, and luckily I really enjoy meeting people.
Right.
But that's one of the challenges, but it's also one of the real joys of provincial politics. I don't think there's any other job in the world, maybe other than broadcasting, where you get a chance to meet such a variety of people, walk in rooms that you wouldn't think of walking, you know, going into a temple,
Right.
Going to a restaurant where there's 200 people that you've never met before that may be from a diverse background. So that's the challenge, but also the really great part of politics.
Right.
The other challenges is you are expected to, you put in long hours. It's a tough job that way, but again, really interesting. The travel, being away from home, is a bit of a challenge, but Victoria is very interesting as well, and I have a little apartment over there, so sometimes the challenges are the good things as well.
Right. And Cathy, why do you think in the public's eye, the image of the politicians is not up to that level which it used to be? It's going
Yes.
down day by day. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think one of the reasons that the image of politicians is going down is the very negative approach that some politicians take, and I think that's why my leader Adrian Dix has said very clearly that he wants to take a positive approach to politics. And we have another poll out today that reflects what he says he thinks the reason more people are coming attracted to the NDP. One of the reasons for that is that we have said we're going to be positive in our approach. That doesn't mean we don't criticize
Right.
on issues, but we're not going to be personal and negative. And I think people are looking for that, and that may have something to do with why people have become very negative about politicians.
Right. And also when you talk about the way the people are viewing the politicians, and also you put in hard labor and long days, but that is not appreciated. So sometimes do you feel that what I am doing and what you all are taken or painted with the same paint, and these kind of things do come into mind?
Well, I think I've been treated very fairly.
Right.
I think the media, I think other politicians have treated me very well and fairly for the most part. There's a few times when stories have been incorrect.
Right.
But so I don't feel that personally. That's an overall public perception, but I don't see that in my day-to-day encounters.
Right.
I run into people all through my community. For the most part, they're wonderful. I've had the door slammed in my face a few times, and that's really disconcerting.
Right.
But for the most part, even if people aren't going to support me, they're respectful and kind. So.
Right.
It's more of a public perception than
Wonderful.
what I experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while we have talked about the challenges, let's talk a little bit about the achievements which you think you have achieved during these few years.
Well, I think that in my critic role, I hope that I've been a good voice for holding the government's feet to the fire in a few areas. I was originally the critic for the Olympics, and I think I raised a lot of issues. It's difficult to achieve things when you are in opposition. Your job primarily is to hold the government's feet to the fire, and then talk about what you would do. So, so mostly so far it's been saying, you know, this is not the way I would do it. And my present critic role is public safety and Solicitor General. So that's policing, RCMP contracts. I've been talking a lot about them.
Right.
Bill C-10 and the impact that it's going to have on the provincial government. And most recently, voicing opposition to the closing of the Kitsilano Coast Guard station, which just makes no sense whatsoever.
Right. I'll be talking details about the issues which you're bringing forward. Coming back to your riding, basically, what kind of riding is it? Are there a lot of, is it a diverse riding, or is it a concentration of a particular ethnicity?
It is an amazingly diverse riding. I think Burnaby has as much diversity as any city in any city. It is diverse in terms of the ethnic makeup, which I think makes it a wonderful riding. We have people from all over the world bringing their skills and talents and new ideas. So we're really lucky that way. More than 40% of my riding, their first language is Chinese. And so that would be the largest group of newcomers to Burnaby, but a real diversity of people coming to Burnaby. There's also a large diversity in terms of socioeconomic profile of the community. So we have some of the nicest, most upscale neighborhoods in my riding. Buckingham Heights, for example. The South Slope is lovely. But we also have some of the most challenging areas where we have a very high percentage of low-income people in my riding. So we find that housing is a real issue in my riding. People come to my door all the time looking for help with their housing issues. You know, can't pay their rent, or they're having trouble with BC Housing. So those are some of the issues and some of the challenges. So yes, huge diversity in the riding.
So you have touched upon some of the challenges which your constituents are facing, but apart from that, what are the major things which are coming forward apart from housing? Because when we talk about the challenges, how about the health system, how about the education system, about which you are very passionate, and how are you trying to kind of those issues which are brought to you, trying to address them?
Well, I'll tell you, health is a big issue in my community right now. We had the C. difficile breakout, the very high levels of C. difficile and deaths related to C. difficile in my riding. The hospital is in my riding, so that has been a real challenge. And I am speaking out now saying we need a new hospital. Now we've got the very first steps towards that. Announcement by Fraser Health that they're going to be taking a look at replacing Burnaby Hospital or upgrading Burnaby Hospital. So I'm going to be very involved in that discussion. The city would like it to be considered the possibility of moving the hospital over to where they wanted to put the prison a few years ago, over by BCIT. So we're speaking out in health in that way. Also speaking out about the lack of mental health services for people. Public education, we're fighting to keep the support for public education up and trying to get through a very difficult time when there's been a lot of polarity between the provincial and government and the teachers, and that's not good for students. So I think we have to reestablish that which has been lost over the last 10 years, which is a trusting relationship. And so we talk about that as well. And I think if we were elected, if the people decided to elect us as government next year, that's one of the first things we have to do, is reestablish trust in the education system. I think overall, what needs to happen to address a lot of the issues is I think there has to be a more consultative approach between different levels of government and different groups.
And how you will continue with this, we'll talk about this after this break. If your government is formed, how you will, because there are a lot of issues which need to be addressed. So where to start and how to start, we'll talk about it. Let's go for a small break.
Thank you very much.
So we'll go for a small break, come back, and this discussion with Cathy Corrigan will continue. Please keep on watching the Harpreet Singh Show.